coming up on Network Africa. Nigeria Drug Law Enforcement Agency, in partnership with the Nigeria Customs Service, records a major breakthrough with interception of a large supply of cannabis worth billions. M23 rebels and Rwandan soldiers accused of carrying out atrocities in Uvira. Plus, South African health authorities race to track dozens of people exposed to the Andes strain of the Hantavirus. Thanks for joining us on the program. I'm Amarachi Ubani. We begin here in Nigeria, where the Drug Law Enforcement Agency, in partnership with the Nigeria Customs Service, recorded a major breakthrough with the interception of 4,173.5 kilograms of suspected cannabis at the Tinkan Island port in Apapa, Lagos. Officials say the illicit consignment, valued at billions of naira, was uncovered through intelligence-led collaboration between both agencies. Authorities are also warning freight agencies and criminal networks that Nigeria will no longer serve as a destination for illegal drugs and prohibited substances.
Acting on credible intelligence gathered by the Nigeria Customs Service and the NDA officers. Officers of enforcement intercepted and subjected a 1x40-foot container with container number HAMU 247034/8 to a thorough physical examination. Consequently, the container, which was originally coming from Canada, just like the previous one, was found to contain 8,347 packages of cannabis indica, weighing a total of 4,173.5 kilograms, with an estimated street value of 16.6 billion naira. This is not just another seizure. This represents a deliberate attempt by criminal elements to jeopardize national security, endanger lives, profit from the destruction of our hard-working young men and women in our country. Thankfully, due to the vigilance and professionalism of our officers and partner agencies, this consignment will not get to the streets.
This exhibit shall proceed through the necessary legal processes for final forfeiture in accordance with the law. This seizure is homogeneous. A total of 4,173.5 kilograms of cannabis indica worth over 16.4 billion in street value. The interception of this large cache of illicit substances by the Nigerian security architecture at the seaport here is highly commendable. These gallant officers have served as effective and patriotic gatekeepers in ensuring the safety and security for our maritime corridors.
Beyond our shores now, Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu and the Rwandan President Paul Kagame have agreed to strengthen ties between both countries with renewed cooperation on trade, travel, air connectivity, and continental integration. Meeting in Kigali ahead of the Africa CEO Forum, both leaders pledged to revive the Joint Permanent Ministerial Commission and advance agreements on tourism, anti-corruption, and regional commerce. President Tinubu also said Nigeria would consider granting Rwandans a 30-day visa-free entry in return for Rwanda's existing policy towards Nigerians. The talks further focused on boosting implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area and expanding air cargo links through discussions with Rwanda Air to strengthen intra-Africa trade and economic integration. A new investigation by Human Rights Watch has accused M23 rebels and alleged Rwandan forces of carrying out executions, rape, and other abuses during their occupation of Uvira in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. The report says at least 53 civilians, including children, were killed during door-to-door raids after the rebels seized the city in December. while survivors described mass displacement, abductions, and sexual violence. Rwanda has repeatedly denied backing the M23 or deploying troops inside DR Congo. Human Rights Watch says the alleged atrocities may amount to war crimes, adding to growing international concern over the escalating humanitarian crisis in the conflict-hit eastern region. The United States Army says the body of a second missing American soldier has been recovered in Morocco following a major international search operation during the African Lion 2026 military exercises. The two soldiers disappeared near a coastal cliff while taking part in training drills along Morocco's Atlantic coast. One of them, 19-year-old Maria Collington, was found earlier in a coastal cave before both bodies were transferred to a military hospital and flown back to the United States. More than 1,000 U.S., Moroccan, and allied personnel joined the week-long search across land, sea, and air, with investigators believing the soldiers may have accidentally fallen into the ocean. The French President Emmanuel Macron says France will host an international conference in Paris later this year, aimed at raising funds for the African Union Peace Fund and strengthening African-led peacekeeping efforts. During a visit to Ethiopia, President Macron said the initiative would seek support from public and private partners, while also backing full implementation of a 2023 United Nations resolution allowing UN member states to help finance AU peace operations. President Macron also reaffirmed support for permanent African representation on the UN Security Council and pledged closer cooperation with African leaders on regional conflicts, including the crisis in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo and the economic impact of tensions around the Strait of Hormuz. Let's get to South Africa, where health authorities are racing to trace dozens of people who may have been exposed to the Andes strain of the Hantavirus after 2 confirmed cases linked to the MV Hondius cruise ship were treated in the country. Former chair of the South African Medical Association, Dr. Angelique Coetzee, warned on Wednesday that the country could face serious challenges if the virus reached vulnerable communities. The current outbreak originated among passengers from the MV Hondius, an expedition cruise ship that departed Ushuaia, Argentina, on April 1st. South Africa became part of the international response after a Dutch passenger who had left the ship in St. Helena traveled to Johannesburg and later died. A British passenger was also medically evacuated from Ascension Island to Johannesburg, where he remains in intensive care.
The hantavirus is a group of viruses that actually causes illnesses in human beings only if it is contagious or certain strains like your Andes virus from human to human transmission. Normally the hantaviruses are being found in the saliva, the droppings, or even in the urine of your rodents. We don't know much about the person that's been admitted, except that a person is in ICU. However, if I look at the time frame that the person has been admitted, it's clear that I think they are doing quite well in the doctors with treating this patient. There is no proper treatment. You treat what we call symptomatically. So you will get your virus, your infection. Remember, the hantavirus infections is very similar to your flu and your COVID symptoms. It's that body aches and pain, the fever, not feeling well. In flu, you sometimes get the diarrhea that goes with it. So very, very, very similar. And then all of a sudden that patient can get worse, deteriorate, it can start to cough up blood, it can start to have blood in their urine. That's the secondary complications that you will get. What you then do, you will put them into an ICU, into isolation, so that you can then, whatever the complications is, you will then try to manage the complications of that. If by accident one of these rodents, by accident, come onto our shores with these hantavirus, especially the Andes virus, we will be in big trouble. because we do not have good infrastructure, good health hygiene, especially in our townships and in our informal settlements. But I think what is important is that there should be clear signs or clear information for people visiting these areas, especially where your Andes virus is. They should know the risks. If you don't know that you don't know, then it's also becoming a problem. So I think there maybe was a slip-up, and people were not aware of the danger of just going bird watching on an island. You need to understand the risks in that area, and that should be communicated much better. We always, everyone says, okay, yellow fever and this and that, but for those type of islands where this hantavirus, the Andes strain, is common, we need to warn the people.
In another health development, the suspension of World Bank funding in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo is worsening access to healthcare, with hospitals facing higher fees, drug shortages and shrinking resources. Medical staff at Minova, South Kivu province were seen carrying out ultrasound scans and checking patients' blood pressure and caring for babies under observation. Patients were also seen resting on hospital beds, but Doctors Without Borders, also known as Médecins Sans Frontières, is continuing to provide free care in the area, but says needs are rising dramatically as other health actors withdraw. Shortages of medicine, vaccines and nutritional supplies are affecting most health zones in South Kivu. The Doctors Without Borders says measles vaccines are unavailable for several months, despite outbreaks in 24 of the province's 34 health zones. In Minova, the impact has been stark after World Bank support through the multi-sectoral nutrition and health project ended and other partners withdrew in early 2026. Minova General Reference Hospital introduced fees for obstetric and neonatal care, including up to $100 for cesarean section and $50 for premature newborn care. Well, back here in Lagos State, the Commissioner for Health, Professor Akin Abayomi, says the state has only 7,000 medical doctors, and the state government is working towards reducing the brain drain and facilitating brain gain by improving working conditions. During a press briefing at the 2026 Ministerial Press Briefing in Alausa, Ikeja, the Commissioner for Health, Professor Abayomi, says the state is intensifying efforts to expand health insurance coverage, improve health care, infrastructure, and reposition Lagos as a leading medical tourism destination in Africa.
On a daily basis, patients walk in and out of the hospital, some to deliver their babies or get emergency care. But not all have good stories to tell after their experience, owing to the shortage of manpower in the medical space. According to the statistics shared by the Lagos State Commissioner for Health, Professor Akin Abayomi, at the 2026 Ministerial Press Briefing, Nigeria has 40,000 doctors at a ratio of 1 doctor to 5,000 population, with an urgent need of 300,000 doctors, while Lagos requires an additional 40,000. In delivering better healthcare services, the Lagos State government is developing an ecosystem that can address biosecurity threats, enforce mandatory health insurance, and neutralize outbound medical tourism.
According to the WHO, we should have 1 doctor for 600 population. There's a shortfall of 30,000 doctors in Lagos and a larger number of shortfall for nurses. So this is a huge number. And let me just say, for the record, that human resources for health shortage is a global phenomenon. So for every health professional we have in Lagos, they're doing the job of 10. So we need to be patient with our healthcare professionals. They're working under very hard conditions. For us in health, we're able to deliver universal health care through a strategy called mandatory health insurance. And we don't want any Lagosians to leave Lagos to obtain any form of health care abroad.
Lagos, with a growing population of 30 million, can only boast of 34 public, secondary and tertiary health facilities, 325 primary healthcare centers with 3,500 registered private health facilities, while the patient and proprietary medicine vendors has 10,000 registered as part of efforts to improve primary healthcare services. In 2025, the federal government, through the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund, approved 32 billion naira for PHCs, primary healthcare centers, across the country, including Lagos.
Now, these funds have stringent criteria for you to access the funds, and they are not completely for consumables. You are expected to spend these funds on improving services at the primary health care levels.
We need to improve the working conditions of our healthcare professionals. We need to improve the living conditions of our professionals and facilitate the return of those that have already drained out of the country.
The state government is currently working towards establishing a University of Medicine to expand training of medical professionals.
His Excellency has given us the approval to establish the standalone University of Medicine and Health Sciences. We're going to decentralize the training of our healthcare professionals from the green circle through the yellow to the red to the blue, which means that we will have access to a very large number of patients.
The Lagos state government believes that the ongoing infrastructure modernization in the health sector will help address shortage of medical professionals and encourage residents to report any form of irregularity that threatens the safety of patients to the Health Facility Monitoring and Accreditation Agency to ensure healthcare standards across the state.
Still ahead on the program, speedometers, tail lights and tires are on display as China seeks to grow its role in Nigeria's automotive sector. Stay with us. Welcome back. The UK government has expanded relations with Nigeria to include relations with Kano and Jigawa states in the country. Head of Development Cooperation at the High Commission in Abuja, Cynthia Rowe, recently held high-level engagements with the governments of both states, reaffirming the UK's long-term commitment to development and reform in northern Nigeria. Ms. Rowe met with the Kano State Deputy Governor, Alhaji Murtala Garp, and other senior officials, and the newly confirmed head of civil service and secretary to the government. The visit recognized Kano's progress on climate finance, health system reform, and private sector investment supported through UK technical assistance. In Jigawa State, she met with Governor Umar Namadi and heads of key ministries, departments, and agencies. The meeting celebrated more than 25 years of UK-Jigawa partnership, one of the most long-standing bilateral development relationships at the sub-national level in Nigeria. Discussions covered the state's continued progress on health system reforms, agriculture, governance, and the path forward under UK technical assistance. Well, China's role in Nigeria's automotive sector is growing as rising imports of vehicles, spare parts, and related products reshape the country's car market and supply chains. Speedometers, tail lights, and tires were seen on display at the West Africa Automotive Show in Lagos recently. There, Chinese automotive companies, including Jetor and truck specialists Jinan Zhuingyi, showcased products at exhibition booths. The West Africa Automotive Show brings together more than 350 exhibitors from around the world, with over 6,000 attendees expected from 63 countries.
Our vision as organisers of the West Africa Automotive Show is to bring automotive products from all over the world into the West African region, and we want them to meet with all of the leading importers, distributors, retailers and procurement managers from all across the region, and bring that whole to life and really building the partnerships between foreign exported products within the Nigerian and wider West African market.
So as you're making use of the electric, it's by the time the battery runs down, it switches by itself to the petrol engine. And while the petrol engine is running, it also recharges the battery. So you are 100% safe. So while you are trying to save costs, I mean, in Nigerian economy, you know how the fuel price is hikes now.
Our company mainly deal with China truck parts, like Sinotrack, Howell, Shackman, Futon, and SMG. Now this is our spare parts, like this value, as this is our brand truck model.
I'd like to end by saying the opportunities beyond us are immense. With Africa's growing population, expanding middle class, and increasing urbanization, the continent represents one of the last major automotive growth frontiers globally. What is required now is commitment, consistency, and collaboration between government and industry.
Let's head back to South Africa, where researchers and students at the Stellenbosch University Engineering Faculty are driving South Africa forward by converting a petrol and diesel vehicle into electric power cars. Professor Tinus Boyson says the converted vehicles are being used to help the government and industry prepare for the eventual shift to electric mobility. Boyson warns that South Africa risks falling behind other African countries if it does not urgently invest in electric vehicle production and skills development.
What you will see today is mostly converted electric vehicles. So they were petrol and diesel vehicles, but we've converted them. The purpose of this conversion is actually to plan for electrification. So in our lab, we do a lot of assessments, trying to understand mobility patterns, trying to understand the electric grid impact of the eventual electrification of transport. And we use these vehicles to validate our models and to help government also set policy to plan for electrification. But I think the more important, bigger picture thing is we need to worry about jobs in South Africa. Our GDP, approximately 4% of our GDP is dependent on vehicle production. Those vehicles are almost exclusively petrol and diesel vehicles, and more than 2/3 of them are exported to Europe. They're going to stop taking our vehicles. We need to start producing locally electric vehicles. We are actually falling behind countries like Kenya, Rwanda, Uganda, who have already started producing electric vehicles. We need to start doing so very, very urgently, and that's another benefit of doing these conversions. We want to start building the skills and make people aware. So one of the things you'll also see today is a training platform in which we train people on how electric vehicles work, what are the things that need to be maintained, what is energy efficiency, etc. So yeah, looking at job opportunities, looking at environmental impact, and looking at grid impact. That's the core message of what we're doing.
In order to prepare for electric vehicles, we need to plan around energy infrastructure and procurement in order to make electric vehicles feasible in the long run.
It is an important sector. It's one that stands to actually make a lot more jobs for our people.
So this is a Suzuki Super Carry. We designed the electric conversion ourselves. So everything was done bottom up by a master's student. We have removed the internal combustion engine and all the associated equipment with that and replaced that completely with an electric drivetrain. You need to plan a little bit better. Because of a bit more of a range limitation, one has to be aware of your battery state of charge and plan ahead when and where you would be charging.
And our fun fact on the continent comes from South Africa, which once had a real-life diamond rush so huge that people dug an enormous hole completely by hand. It's called the Big Hole in Kimberley, one of the largest hand-dug holes on Earth. Thousands of miners rushed there in the 1800s searching for diamonds, removing millions of tons of earth using only picks and shovels. Now that's digging for treasure on a whole new level. And now you know. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani.